All right, hello gamers. We are back with some more Guild Wars 2 news. They have posted a blog post called Secrets of the Obscure Looking Back and Forward. I have not read this yet. They often will do these articles after they finish a huge project, sometimes an expansion, sometimes content updates, living world, whatever, and talk about like what they learned going through it. Many companies do this, and I love this stuff because it kind of shows usually that they're listening. They're like, yeah, we're happy we did this. They're like, man, we wish we hadn't done that. Would have done that differently if we could go back in time. Now, what I'm expecting from this article is something along the lines of what they've learned, because this was their first expansion in the yearly expansion cycle. So they announced after End of Dragons that they were going to do a yearly cycle. For anyone who is brand new to the game, that we had many years between Path of Fire and End of Dragons. In fact, many of us players thought that there was no more updates coming out, but we still played the game because it was a great game. Excuse me, hiccup. However, then they announced we're making a new expansion. It's going to be a mini expansion. It's going to be smaller, but it will be cheaper, reduced price tag, and it's going to be called Secrets of the Obscure. And then 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months later will be a big content update, and then 1 year later is the next expansion. And we're going to do yearly small expansion cycles going forward instead of doing like an expansion every 5 years with Living World in between it. That's the plan. So, anytime you give a room full of nerds a job and say, hey, you're going to do this huge project once a year going forward, the first year is going to be the toughest one because they've got to figure out the kind of the assembly line. Like Bill is going to figure out like, okay, I need to have this done by February for Sarah to be able to start doing her job. And Sarah's like, all right, I have to have this done by March for Julie to do her job. And Julie's like, I have to have this done by March 2nd for Fred to do his job because he sucks and he's going to take 3 months to do his step. Whatever. So they've got to figure out the assembly line. They've got to figure out how long each step is going to take, how much time each person has. Are any of them allowed to take weekends off? Things like that. Like how hot is it in the sweatshop? Do they have air conditioning? Whatever. So I'm sure that they learned a lot from doing this. And I'm also sure that they're going to have procedures in place that, as a result of this, that is going to make their work on the next yearly expansion easier. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a different quality product. I would hope it's going to be a higher quality product, but it means that from a tech perspective, it should be easier the second time because they'll have procedures in place that they learned from the first time. All right, so anyway, that's the kind of stuff I'm expecting to read here. Let's see if I'm right or just way off. All right. Hey, Guild Wars community. Josh Davis here, game director for Guild Wars 2. That is aka Grouch, or Groucharoo, if any of you know him by his other alias. Last week's content update was a significant milestone for us, both technically and symbolically. It marked the final major release for Guild Wars 2 Soto, our first foray into the annual expansion model first announced in early 2023. As we conclude one chapter for the final content update of Soto, we are eagerly prepared to unveil the details of our next expansion. Before we all get swept up by next week's news of what's coming for Guild Wars 2, I want to take a moment to reflect on the development of Soto and some of the high-level learnings that we've taken forward with us into our 5th expansion. You won't learn about the specific features, settings, or story of our next expansion in this blog post. That's for next week, but you'll have a better understanding of how we're approaching its development. I mean, all we really need to know is that it's got land spears. Like that's it. Like who cares where this location is? Land spears. Oh my god. All right. Retrospective. A quick history refresher. A little over a year and a half ago, we announced that we'd be transitioning from the long-standing Living World model to smaller, more frequent annual expansion releases. This is a significant shift, but the new direction was born out of an examination of the pain points experienced by our players and our developers. The reasons we laid out this change and what we hope to achieve by it were simple, but deeply important. Deliver content updates in a more consistent and timely manner. Provide better support for the systems and game modes that make up Guild Wars 2 experience. Enable ArenaNet employees to enjoy a better work-life balance. And all that is respectable, like especially like more consistent manner. Holy crap. So like there was Guild Wars 2 and then Living World Season 1. There was then an event and you couldn't replay it for 8 years or something. And then Heart of Thorns and Season 2 and Season 3 and Path of Fire. And Season 4 and there was Icebrood Saga, and then Icebrood Saga was like they're like, it's not a Living World season, it's a saga. Living World season 5. It was a Living World season. And then it was actually pretty awesome until it was just like cut short because End of Dragons got greenlit. And then, and there was just like a year or two, or there's a couple years in between Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, but then there was like 20 years between Path of Fire and End of Dragons. It was all over the place. So there was like a discontinued Living World season, then a consistent Living World season, then they're like, we don't like to be consistent, throw this out the window. And then there was a not Living World season. And it was very, very irregular. As far as better support for the systems, love that, and enabling employees to enjoy a better work-life balance. I don't know what they were going through, but I totally respect that. That's fine. Now that we've completed a full expansion release cycle, I can confidently say that we've made significant strides toward these goals. But as with all things, there's room for improvement, both in terms of the content we deliver and the processes through which we deliver it for today. I'm going to focus on some of what we've learned on the content side of things. Okay, story. The conclusion of the Elder Dragon Saga in Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons presented us with a unique opportunity to delve into a different kind of storytelling. Once again, I want to pause here because I try to make these videos in such a way that anyone, even if they're brand new Guild Wars 2 players, can understand what we're talking about. You could kind of think of Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 2, Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, and End of Dragons as like 4 books in like a series that like they're on a shelf. They go, book 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, and 4 of 4. Guild Wars 2 Soto is like book 1 of a new series. You could jump into Soto without having played any of the others, and you'd be all right. Yeah, there's a few contextual things you wouldn't pick up on, but you'd be all right. All right. But Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons heavily wanted you to have played the previous stuff to make any sense of what was going on. It was the final book in that series, It was Avengers Endgame, essentially. And it was the culmination of like a 10-year story. And so Soto was the first expansion that broke away from that story. They had the freedom to do whatever with that. They chose to focus on the Wizard Tower. We aim to focus on deeper narratives grounded in the characters and circumstances around the player character. However, with Soto, our ambition led us to take on a broader scope than was feasible. We introduced a lot of new characters, and the plot was too complex for what we can be... I'm going to bite my tongue here and keep going. For what can be reasonably handled within an annual expansion. This left some character interactions feeling rushed and story threads unexplored. More isn't always better. I'm going to finish reading this and then I'll make my comments. We learned a lot from this experience and have a much greater understanding of story at scale within our new release structure. For our new expansion, we're going to tell a more grounded story set in a new region of Tyria, with more of a focus on local threats and the global conversation around those threats. Tyria, despite all its challenges, has continued to stir. While we leave Naos and the Cryptis to enjoy their newfound freedom, the story will pick up on some threads started in Soto, continuing with the Astral Ward arc, their moral ambiguity, and their relationship to Tyria. Okay, so going back here, we introduced a lot of new characters. Yeah, there was quite a few, and many of them I can't really remember. So basically, there was Patha and the Demons, but before that was like, the Cryptis. The Cryptis were basically every mob you've ever seen in Tyria, reskinned and spooky. And despite the fact that they all look like monsters, they talk like normal people, and they were basically normal people. The kind of the weird part was, and again, I'm talking about this after having played the whole thing. I'm not a developer. I'm just giving my input here. Some of the weird thing is that there's much of the story, and I think this is one of the things that could have been done better with Soto. Imagine the whole story of Soto and replace all the Cryptis with just a different faction of humans. It's virtually the same story. The fact that they were Cryptis is almost irrelevant. And I think that was a big part of the problem. And there's also a thing in storytelling that's like, it's called show, don't tell. Don't just say like, oh, yeah, there's a big fight. Like, show me the big fight. We're going to see, we sieged the castle. No, show me sieging the castle. When they walked, there was a point in the story where they walked into a room and they screamed, and I'm like, what? It's just a room. And they're like, the souls of all are departed in here. He killed all of them. And it's just like, show it. Don't just, I'm playing a video game here. I'm walking into an empty room and you're telling me it's full of souls? Show me some brightly colored lights fleeing all over the place, panicked or something, I don't know. But show, don't tell. And the Cryptus were basically just humans in a different form, I feel like, as far as like how it was done. The other characters, like I remember, like off the top of my head, right? There was like Mabon. There was the Dwarven Smith, whose name escapes me right this second, that wants all my ectoplasms. There was like the main wizard man, whose name escapes me right this second. There was Richtik and Gladium, who were cute. They're pretty neat. The Skrit that talked for her and the mute Char, and they would do sign language to each other. I thought they were a cute, I started to say couple, but that insinuates some things I'm not meaning to insinuate. Partnership. And then there was a few. There was a frog wizard, and he wanted me to throw like potions at people. Stuff like that. So there was a handful of different characters. Yeah. Mabon was one of my favorites. Then and there's stuff like that. As far as like a lot of new characters, I mean, a couple of the others, like among the Cryptus, there was, what was it? There was Ramses, and I remember him because he had like an Egyptian name. And I also remember his face looked like a butt. And then there was Patha, and then there was 3 guys named General blah, 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 and I don't remember anyone else. There was the Midnight King, and I guess the Midnight Wife, and she killed herself. And I remember that because Patha's like, lol, dead wife, every time she could, and I thought that was hilarious because she kept getting under the king's skin with that. So I don't know what they planned. Maybe they planned something epic. At the last second, they realized they couldn't pull it off, and then they just like really quickly put something together at the end. I am not sure. I'm not one of the developers. I'm not going to pretend like I was. But I'll tell you, the end result of what we got, I can't describe it as complex. In my opinion, the launch of Soto with the Wizard Tower and like the setting the stage for the new stuff, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was on the good side. But then the content patches after that had to do with Patha and the demons, not less so. Okay, so moving on from there. It also just got a comment. I felt like Patha was extreme. The fact that she's a demon and she like everyone was expecting her to betray us at some point, right? Like that's like their driving force. Like the whole driving force of why are the Cryptus coming to Tyria was they want to eat people. They want to eat people. They got things to do and people to eat. And then Patha was just like, oh yeah, we'll stop eating people. It's cool. If you could just stop, what was the point of any of this? Like, if the demons can just choose to be vegan, why was any of this necessary? Anyway, again, it was probably something that they had planned better and then they cut a corner. I don't know. All right, so those are my thoughts on that. There's Ramses. Here we go. Map design. In Soto, we delivered 3 new... You too can sign up for my Patreon and play completely irrelevant noises anytime you want. Map design. In Soto, we delivered 3 new open world maps. The first 2, Amnetus and Skywatch Archipelago, came with the expansion's launch in August 2023. That's my birthday. The third map, Interneos, was released with the first quarterly update in November 2023 and was then expanded on in our second and third quarterly updates with new playable space and event content. After the final release was literally just like a meta chunk of the map that you we all know. I'll just keep going. After extensive adventuring in Interneos in recent months, it's clear that using a single map as the main focal point for 3 releases is not ideal from a player or developer standpoint. Our decision to do so originally stemmed from production constraints and overlapping development timelines between expansions. But we've since identified some ways to mitigate those issues, both in terms of release structure and process improvements. And that's the kind of thing I was talking about before we even started reading this, is they probably found lots of ways to make their in-office timeline better on how to do this stuff. For our next expansion, our first 2 maps will be released at the expansion's launch just as they did in Soto. However, the final map will arrive in the second quarterly update and will be expanded upon in the third, meaning it will be expanded on for 2 total releases like Biora and Drizzlewood Coast. Not only does this give our team a bit more time to develop the third map, it also means that the story during the next expansion cycle will better leverage all 3 maps and take you back to familiar areas from your past adventures. While the first quarterly release after the expansion's launch won't include the third open world map of the expansion, as it did with Soto, there will be plenty of new content to keep you busy in that time frame, in terms of story, open world content, and encounters. I know that's a little vague. Again, check back in next week, but rest assured that first quarterly release will include something really exciting that players have been requesting for over 5 years. Well, I can tell you one of the possibilities is land spears. If anyone didn't see the news, and I broadcasted it earlier, they released this video, this is on the main Guild Wars 2 channel, of someone swimming through water, and then they get out of the water and their spear is still on their back. So either their underwater spear can be used as a land weapon, or there's a land spear and an underwater spear, and they've got the same transmog on both, and you can, again, now use land weapons. Noxxi's on my chat right now and says 5 years ago was when the last raid was released. Oh, was that Kadim's wing? Kadim the Peerless's wing? Wing 7? Okay, so possibly it's a wing 8. I didn't line up the date. Okay, features. MMOs are made of numerous gameplay systems and content types, each with a different role to play and the game experience. As games go on, they tend to accumulate more and more systems and features from expansions and the like, which is fine, and there's effort put into maintaining and updating those systems. Looking back over the game's history, I think this maintenance and upkeep is one of the areas where we've fallen short. At times, even falling into the trap of releasing new features for the sake of releasing new features, even if they overlap with something that already exists. This is something we've been referring to internally as putting a hat on a hat. I mean, as someone who's played Team Fortress in the past, I don't think wearing a stack of hats is that bad, but I see what you mean. Over the last 2 years, we've put much more of a focus on upkeep and iteration of systems and avoiding unnecessary bloat where possible. We've put more of a focus on maintaining live game systems, and with Soto, we even went to the extent of entirely reworking existing features to make room for more modernized solutions. The Wizard's Vault is a good example of this strategy working out well for us, and you can expect to see a new system being introduced in Expansion 5 that adds a meaningful new way to spend your time in Guild Wars 2 while using this as an opportunity to greatly improve the player experience with related existing game systems. Overall, we were a bit conservative with features in Guild Wars 2 Soto, trying to strike the right balance between scope, schedule, and risk while navigating a new content structure. We've ironed out a lot of the kinks here, and it's allowed us to be a bit more ambitious with our next expansion. Next week can't come soon enough. Such a tease. We closed out one of our recent blogs, which introduced the cosmetic inspection feature and recapped some of the quality of life changes that have gone into the game, thanks to the development approach we took to Guild Wars 2 Soto, with a screenshot preview of an area you'll discover in our next expansion. We thought today would be a fun opportunity to build on that, so I'll leave you with an additional environment preview. And again, I already did a video where we went over this. It shows the person swimming, they get out of the water, they're still holding a spear, and then the camera pans over to this, which lots of people who know more about the lore of the game than I do have been speculating on what this is. So this is coming soon TM. So that's what that video is. On behalf of ArenaNet, I want to express my sincere gratitude for your continued support, your passion, and your feedback. It's not lost on us just how incredibly lucky we are to have a dedicated community behind us, and we look forward to discovering more of Tyria's secrets together with you for years to come. Thanks for reading. I can't believe we're just a week away from announcing what's next for Guild Wars 2. I'm really excited about what we've created, and I think you will be too. Josh Davis, Game Director. And then it says Guild Wars 2 Soto, a year of content. They did the World Restructuring Beta, Weapon Master Training Beta Test, Hiding Ally Visual Effects, Guild Wars 2 Soto Launch, Wizard's Vault Intro, Filtering Options on the TP for Unlocked Skins, Fractal Rush and World v World Rush, Shadow of the a year of content. I wish they hadn't put the holiday stuff in here, because, you know, like Shadow of the Mad King has been there for years. Says Fractal Rush, World Rush. Anyway, Through the Veil, Convergences, Wizard Vault Refresh, Skills and Balances Patch, Expanded Weapon Proficiencies Beta, New Hero Jumpstart, Character Select Background Customization, Winter's Day, Dungeon Rush, Lunar New Year, Realm of Dreams, Wizard's Vault Refresh, New Weapon Proficiencies came out, Legendary Relics, Tier 1 Legendary Armor, Progress Bar for Meta Achievements, stuff. And again, I'm trying to filter out the stuff that's just like old holidays. The Midnight King, Wizard's Vault Refresh, Lonely Tower Fractal Mission, Legendary Armor Tier 2, Action Cam Reticle Customization, and Holidays. So yeah, it's cool stuff. There's a lot of stuff here. This is nice. I like reading this. I wish they were giving a bit more information, but I completely understand why they're not at the same time. I don't know how they feel about it. I'm honestly not sure how they feel about it. Do they feel that, like, you know, they wanted to make this grand thing for Soto, they ran out of time, or it just wasn't feasible, so they cut a few corners at the end and it wasn't quite what they wanted to give us? Or are they just like, oh man, we really dropped the ball there. Oof. You know, like, I have no idea how they feel on this on a cringe scale of 1 through 10. Soto overall, for features, like, we didn't get elite specs. At the beginning, I was really sad about that. My favorite thing in each expansion is actually not, like, the new lands we go to. It's the stuff that molds your character and makes your character fun to play no matter where you go. Because whether I go to PvP, World v World, strikes, raids, fractals, dragon response missions, open world, whatever, I can be an Untamed, I can be a Soul Beast, I can be a Druid, I can be a Mechanist, I can be a Hollowsmith, I can be a Scrapper. Like, all of those are things that carry into every single game mode of the game. And if you find one of those fun, you get to take that fun with you no matter where you go. Now, so in Soto, I was really sad about not getting elite specs. It was like not a full expansion to me because of just that fact alone. However, the Weapon Master the Weapon Master training, which allowed us to use different weapons on our different, like to use my Soul Beast weapon on my Druid, stuff like that, and the new weapons, such as like maces on Ranger, staff on Warrior, things like that. Those two things got me excited again. The story was... Again, I felt the story at launch. This is my own personal opinion. I felt the story at launch was on the good side. It wasn't exceptional, but it certainly wasn't bad. I thought it was on the good side. The Wizard's Tower, introducing the Cryptus, there's these monsters, stuff like that. I think they could have done a better job explaining some stuff, like, why couldn't I just radio the fleet in? I've got them on speed dial. But they were like, oh no, you can't do that, it's a secret. And, you know, then the world almost got ended because we had to keep a secret, stuff like that. I think they could have done a better job explaining why that was a thing. Then
shut up, Bram.
Go on.
I don't even care.
Hi, Laura. What's up? Oh, I just got a raid from Loranity. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. Welcome. Welcome to all of you. Hello. Yeah, I'm sure Laura already read this today, but I'm just getting to it. But then in the later content updates, basically...
Hey, look, it's the Tree of Birds. How are you today?
Basically everything with inner mayonnaise. That's Naos, if that wasn't clear. It wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. The zone was entirely gray. It was depressing. Everything there involved an entire cloud of sky scales, so I just had like a wing beats the colors of Skittles beating in my face the entire time. One meta was literally taxi, you know, it was like your Uber Eats. I was literally, the East meta is basically Grubhub. You're just doing deliveries the whole time. It's so bleh. The second one is kind of cool because there's action in that one. The third one is like 50% Grubhub, 40% you're going down to super laggy. Oh, hang on just a second, guys. I just got to do a ban here. Oh, thank you. You did that faster than I did. Appreciate that, mods. The final section of the map was like 40%, you know, delivery is like you get on your sky scale, you go, you pick up the ball, you take it to the pylon, you pick up a ball, you take it to the pylon, you pick up a ball, you take it to the pylon, you pick up a ball. Guess where you're going? To the pylon, that's right. And then and what's next? You pick up the grenade, you take it to the eyeball. You pick up the grenade, you take it to the eyeball. You pick up the grenade to the eyeball, that's right. You pick up the grenade, you take it to the eyeball, that's right. And then next, you fight a guy. We finally get to fight a guy. But there's new mechanics, which is fine. And my buff bar, I have to watch it because there's a poison, the new type of poison on the debuff bar that'll kill me. Unfortunately, The new achievements go behind my freaking map. Look, I have to move. I can't even. Look, it goes behind the map. I can't see it. So because of how they're choosing to do UI now,
Thanks
I can't
for the
see
content.
when I don't interrupt me. Thank you. You're awesome. I can't see when I get the freaking thing. So, then there's that fight. Then we all get smashed into a hallway. There's 100 people in there, and I can either turn my graphics settings down so I don't see people or enemies, or I can turn them up so I get 1 frame per second. Unless I'm playing on NVIDIA GeForce Now. Here's a word from our sponsor. Not today, that's in 2 days, but they're awesome. Then, finally, we get to a room with the coolest looking boss that they've designed in this expansion. It looks amazing. He bursts into the room, and I'm like, oh, scrit, here we go. And he does this. It's like Crypta the Necro Dancer. He doesn't swing, he doesn't chase people, he just vibes. He just sits there and works his magical, glorious shoulders for 45 minutes. Until you finally kill him. And God help you if you step in the puddle of regret and do 1,000 damage to yourself every time you use an ability, because you're gonna blow your own brains out with every click you do. Oh my God. He looks so good too, but they didn't bother to let him have the ability to move. So yeah, anyway, I don't like Naos. Anyway, I don't like Naos. The whole play, like the third release didn't even like expand the map. It had like 2 points of interest, 1 waypoint, and that's it, or something like that. It was just, and like the whole place is just like there's ash and depression. Anyway, I liked the release, didn't like that. That's my opinions on that. I accidentally slipped into rant mode. I forgot I was recording a video. Hi, YouTube. But yeah, with that, anyway, I like the fact that they said they've learned a lot. I'm sure, I'm 100% positive that that's not just them blowing smoke. I've worked in tech before. I am sure they did learn a lot. I also hope as a, consumer, as a customer, which is the worst kind of people, chat. Like, when you're a customer, you are just the worst. You know who first said the customer's always right? It was a customer who was wrong. All right? So as a customer, I'm just going to say the final product of Soto was all right. It was all right. Like, all of it together as a whole. I think everything pre-Naos was good. Everything Naos was and then a lot of the features were good. That's my opinion on the package as a whole. And I hope that they take that, maybe they take the feedback of people like myself and the forums and stuff like that, and they do a little better on the next one. From the art in there, it was depressing. The meta, I don't like doing a meta that's entirely focused on my sky skill. I know they're proud of the fact that they gave the sky skill the ability to belch a fireball. Or if you're using the robot sky skill, it just shoots the fireball out of its head because its mouth doesn't open. Whatever. I know they're really proud of that, but I want to play my character. I don't want to play my mount. I don't want to play the dolphin in the fractal, and I don't want to play the hammer on Cliffside. I want to play my tune. Okay, that's what I want to do. So yeah. Anyway, I hope that they learn from this stuff. This was a very interesting read, and I got way off topic with my rant. Laura rated me, and I felt like I had to put on a show. But yeah. Anyway, that's the thing. I'll have a link to this whole thing in the description down below if anybody wants to read it. If anybody wants to share their opinions on it. I think that's it. Yeah, share your opinions on what you thought on Soto in the description down below. And looking forward to possibly Raid Wing 8 and Land Spears. Both of those excite me greatly. And I'll see y'all in the next one.